Hey, David, welcome to Crosswalk Talk. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me.
David, of course, your website is davidleonardmusic.com. You have a new album out,
I
Just
do.
Just Jesus. Let me give people a tease of who you are, because you have one of the more interesting music backgrounds of anybody that I've talked to. You co-wrote a song that is sung in churches every Sunday, Great Are You, Lord. You co-wrote that when you were part of All Sons and Daughters. You were part of Need to Breathe and toured with them for a little bit on keyboard, I believe that's what you played.
Hmm.
And you've had such hits as Good Lord, Every Hour, and Line of Fire. We know those. We'll get to all that stuff in a moment, but let's talk about Just Jesus. That's the new album, the new record that you have out now. How does it reflect where you are in your faith journey? What do you want people to know about it?
Man, uh, this album it's been over the last 2 years, um, and the last 2 years have been a whirlwind of events. Lost four grandparents. Been My kids have struggled with health stuff. Um, just walked down a number of roads where it just felt like the world was punching me in the gut over and over again. And this record has kind of been that thing of going, man, like in the midst of all of this stuff, uh, the only thing that I need is Jesus, which is it's a hard thing to walk through. So like, I don't want to come to that realization, um, but sometimes we have to, and um, just been drawn into it. Even Psalm 139, um, where we have the promise that God has promised to be with us in the highs and in the lows, and that's the stuff that I'm holding on to. That when I feel like I'm by myself, that the Lord has promised to be with me through all of it, and so. Um, I don't know. It's just this record is kind of the culmination of all that stuff, and turned into a beautiful movement of lyric and song.
When you started writing the record, were um, I guess you didn't know what was gonna
No,
be in the future there. I mean, did you start writing the record before all that happened, before your grandparents passed and before these health problems with your kids?
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, how does the record reflect that journey? Just Jesus sure sounds like that reflects something you learned during that journey. The
Yeah,
title.
I mean, I think, um, I think you have when you walk through things, you come out differently on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
am a believer that the Lord allows us to go to the top of the mountaintop in order to see where we just came from. Um, I don't think that we're supposed to live up there. I don't think that's the place where we stay. Because
Yeah.
rarely have I ever been shaped by what happened on top of that mountaintop. And it's been what happened in the valley. And I think he
Mm.
gives us these moments to take a breath and look and see where he's been with us and where he's taken us. And yeah, I mean, I think all these songs are a direct reflection of that, and how the Lord has brought me through it. My recognition of His presence in the midst of all of it, and
Mm.
and my hope um, for days of better.
Amen. Let's talk about your background, David. You grew up in a minister's home. Your father was a college minister, I believe, at a college. Was it
40 years, 40
well,
years.
was it in Arkansas?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you get into music? Did you grow up wanting to make a career out of music?
No, I grew up in a small little town, Arkansas. I didn't even know music was you could do that for a job. I thought that people who did music were band directors and choir directors, and um, when I was growing up, worship leader was not the cool job. The worship leader was the hand waving guy, and
Yeah.
the youth pastor was the cool guy. That was the guy you wanted to be. Um, so I didn't even think that that was a possibility. I grew up with music. My dad kind of did all things. He did college ministry. He was the worship pastor. He was the youth pastor. Um, he did college ministry for all 40 years, but he led worship all while I was growing up. So I was always kind of surrounded by music, but my dad never played anything. My grandma played piano and organ, so I would sit behind her on Sunday mornings. You know,
Mm.
in the Baptist church, they have the modesty fences kind of thing around. So I would hide out behind that over there by the piano and draw and eat snacks and listen to her play the organ and piano and then my uncles played guitar. But yeah, I just kind of it wasn't all music didn't always fill my house, but when it did, it was really meaningful. And so ended up having some friends that started a band, and I was just like, I don't know what that is, but I want to be a part of that. And I just ran after it, kind of when I was like 16. I
What
hadn't
was
stopped.
what was the style of music you first fell in love with? It's my understanding
Oh,
you were in Southern rock for a little bit, weren't you?
well, yeah, I mean, I loved at that point. I was also working at a shoe store. Who the guys that ran that shoe store, they had like a blues band, classic rock. I mean, they were playing everything from Doobie Brothers and Stevie Ray Vaughan, everything. They were kind of all over the map. But I loved it. I think that was kind of where I got my musical education of just listening to so many different genres of music and falling in love with melody and how a song can make you feel. And I don't know. I still love it to today.
The first group that you were in that people who are watching this probably know about is All Sons and Daughters. Give me a bridge version of how you transitioned from an eclectic blend of Southern rock and everything else to you know worship music, Christian music.
Yeah. I mean, I had a band in college. That's what moved me out here to Nashville. Did that for like 7 years. And then I started playing keys for Need to Breathe. And then started doing the All Sons and Daughters thing. And the All Sons and Daughters thing was simply we were just trying to resource our church with songs. We were just writing songs for our people. That was it. We weren't trying to be a band. We weren't trying to be anything other than a resource to our church. And then all of a sudden, the Lord started doing crazy things with these songs, and we never thought that anybody would sing them outside of our four walls, and then they were. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of chalk up the education that I got back in the day of going, man, that you just music is music, and if you can, if you believe it, then sing it. If you don't, and you don't know anything about it, then don't sing it.
I,
Sing about the things you know
well,
and
let's talk.
you love.
Yeah, amen. Let's talk about one of those songs. Great Are You, Lord.
Yeah,
And I asked that because I didn't know this about you until I started reading your bio and
yeah.
realized that you were one of the co-writers of a song that I've sung probably hundreds of times in a church. What do you remember about the writing of that song? What was your heart and the heart of your
Oh man,
co-writers?
it's not that good of a story. It's one of those things that's like I don't remember it that well. It was one we wrote it that day, and I was like, I probably will never sing that song ever again. It was like the first verse was the same as the second. Uh, the melodies were just kind of they weren't doing anything crazy, and I was like, okay, that was a good write, but we're moving on. And never did it in a million years did I ever think that that song was going to do what it did.
Well,
Which
why
is
do you think it? What happened? Why did it do what it did?
I don't know. If I knew that, then I would try to do it all over and over again. I think it's the most beautiful gift that the Lord has given me, where it was something that I uh, didn't think was going to be anything, and then all of a sudden, He made it something that I'm allowed to still do this stuff even to today. And
What
I think it's those moments that are great gifts to us. Because if I knew what I was doing, if I did it and I was like, oh, I did this, this, and this, I think I would do it over and over again, and then it would not mean anything to me. And the fact that I still show up every day, just open handedly, going, God, I have no idea what I'm doing, but you can do anything with all this stuff.
Mm.
And I think it's just it should give people hope of going, hey, like just keep going, put your head down, keep going. You never know what the Lord can do with any of these offerings that we have.
What were your emotions when you first heard it sung in a church?
Oh,
That
it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I never get tired of it. People always ask me, they're like, you get tired of singing this song or hearing this song? I'm like, no, I've written enough songs that nobody cared about, that when they
mm,
actually cared about one, you tend to hold it pretty close and
mm.
appreciate it.
You toured with Need to Breathe. You played keyboards. Need to Breathe. Played keyboards. Were they a big thing back then, or did they grow? You know,
Yeah,
after that.
I came in like 2009, 2010, right when the Outsiders, that record was happening. Yeah, it was a steady climb at that point. It was the sky was the limit. So we were having a blast.
Mm,
I loved my time there. They're still great friends, but it was just the Lord started doing something in this little church, and we just started writing songs. So it was kind of one of those deals that I was like, man, I hate that I'm leaving this, but I feel like the Lord's leading me at the same time.
how would you describe your music style? What styles of music do you enjoy the most, David?
I mean, I'm a fan of all. I'm a fan of all music. I love. I'm surrounded by all kinds of things. I got a 13-year-old and a 6-year-old that are listening to more music than I've ever listened to in my life. So I'm being educated on any pop song that you can ever believe coming out right now. But I love singer songwriters. I grew up on James Taylor, and I grew up on the Eagles, um, and then in college fell in love with Stevie Wonder and Otis Redding and Bill Withers, and like all this stuff that were just people who believed what they sang in and sang with conviction and wrote with conviction. And so I love that when I hear things like that. I'm like, yeah, I believe that 100%. I'm drawn to that kind of stuff, and that's the hope for what I do. That's the hope for the music that I create. Like, I just want to create real music, music that first off connects with me.
Yeah.
If I'm not moved by it, then I don't feel like anybody else is, and so it's got to start here. And so I try to write songs for me and my family and my friends,
Mm.
um, and yeah, just thankful I'm still doing it.
Let's wrap this up by closing with a question about your album, Just
Yep.
Jesus. It's out now. What are one or two messages you want fans to kind of take away from these songs, these new songs?
Man, I mean, I think um, going back to that Psalm 139, the Lord has promised to be with us in the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And I think just that reminder of if you're walking through it or if it's the best days of your life, know that the Lord has promised to be with you and He will continue to be with you. Um, and just the reminder of it is good to slow down and look backwards and see where the hand of God has been over our lives. I think we rarely slow down to look back and see things. And I'm speaking to myself right now, but you got to slow down and you got to look back and see the beautiful things that the Lord has brought you through. And so I just encourage you to do that. I encourage people to do that as often as they can. And yeah, just take it in.
David, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.